Welcome back, Midnighter Capped. Today, I'm going to recap a comedy film called Bad Teacher. Elizabeth is a middle-aged woman who works as a teacher in a middle school. In life, Elizabeth is actually a careless, rude woman who often swears at her students and only watches movies in her classroom. Elizabeth has only one goal in life, and that is to marry a rich man and possess all his wealth. However, when she returns home, she finds her boyfriend and his mother waiting for him. Her boyfriend finally realizes that Elizabeth only cares about his money and nothing else. She has spent a lot of money over the past few months, buying expensive things for herself. Elizabeth tried to explain that this wasn't the case, but he wouldn't even listen and left in anger. After the breakup, Elizabeth went back to her old middle school. Afterward, Elizabeth returned to her class and her classmates were happy to see her back. In first period, she turns on the TV and tells them to watch Stand and Deliver and says it will help improve their learning. During the lunch break, Elizabeth makes up with Lynn, a teacher at the same school. The two talk about their lives and Elizabeth reveals that she is planning to have her breasts enlarged so that she can become more beautiful and attract more rich people. Meanwhile, we meet Russell, the school's gym teacher, who is obsessed with Elizabeth from the start, but Elizabeth never talks to him. One day, a handsome guy named Scott comes to the school as a substitute teacher, and when Elizabeth learns that he's rich, she starts making frequent opportunities. She then skillfully gets him to reveal his relationship status, and it turns out he's still single. Scott says he recently broke up with his girlfriend and even shows a picture of her. Turns out it was a girl with the big boobs again. So Elizabeth has made breast augmentation surgery her goal. Elizabeth went to a clinic and was ready to fill out the surgery form, but when she learned that the surgery would cost as much as $90,000, she had no choice but to stop making appointments. Elizabeth doesn't even have $50 in her account, so she had to wait for now. Later that night, she called all her friends and acquaintances, hoping to get some donations for the surgery. However, no one lent her any money and they simply hung up on her. The next morning, Elizabeth was killing time in class, as usual, when a student told her that the whole class was going to participate in the annual car wash, and that it was going to be a lot of fun. Elizabeth wasn't interested at all, but she was stunned when the student revealed that they had made $6,000 last year. So she went to the principal's office and began to lobby the principal with every advantage she had. Once the principal was under her spell, she asked him to put her in charge of the car wash instead of Amy. As it turned out, to her delight, the principal agreed without even thinking about it. The next morning, Elizabeth goes to the event dressed in the most revealing outfit she can find. Then, she started washing the car while splashing a lot of water on her body and showing off her body with all her might. This amazes all the women around her, but the men enjoy it. And even a policeman is so mesmerized by her beauty that he drives into another car. Elizabeth then asks the men for extra money, claiming that her school is in desperate need of extra funds for its students. Surprisingly, her plan works and she makes about $10,000. Elizabeth donates half of it to the school and secretly keeps the other half for herself. Meanwhile, Amy learned the news and angrily went to the principal. The principal, who was relieving himself in the restroom at the time, was furious at the sudden invasion of his privacy. Amy claimed that Elizabeth had stolen money from the school and demanded that she be punished. However, the principal said he could do nothing until he found hard evidence. The next day is the school's annual parent-teacher conference. Unsurprisingly, many of the parents talk to Elizabeth because they are all angry about the way their children are being raised. They confronted Elizabeth demanding that she explain why she never attended class and always showed movies in class. In response, she simply said she knew what was right. When the meeting ended, a concerned father approached Elizabeth and surreptitiously handed her $200, asking her to give his son extra attention. This gave Elizabeth another idea. She met with all the parents one by one, collecting money from them and promising that she would give personal attention to their children. Now, Elizabeth is only $2,000 short of the cost of her breast augmentation surgery. As the days go by and she continues to irresponsibly show movies in class every day, completely neglecting her students, Elizabeth also rejects the advances of Russell, the fitness instructor. Nevertheless, she develops a friendship with him. Amy, on the other hand, begins to make a pass at the rich and handsome Scott. The two became close and were always together, which made Elizabeth very jealous. One day, she learns from her best friend Lynn that whoever can get the best scores from their students on the upcoming state exams will win a cash prize of $5,000. So, starting the next day, she started coming to class early, which startled her students. She even became very strict. However, it still wasn't enough to get them to pass the upcoming state exam, which was just a few days away. Desperate to win the $5,000 prize, Elizabeth decided to get the questions for the test herself. That night, she approaches a state university professor named Carl, who is in charge of preparing and distributing the test questions. They struck up a conversation and Carl took her to his office. When he turned around, Elizabeth drugged his drink, and Carl drank the whole thing and passed out. When the test results come in, all of Elizabeth's students pass their exams with test scores, and she wins a bonus. This finally gave her enough money to get the surgery. So she immediately went to the clinic and made an appointment for the surgery. The following week, the school was taking all the students on a trip and the people in charge would be Scott and Amy. When Elizabeth learns of this, she comes up with a cunning plan. As expected, the next day Amy's face is covered with a red rash. She is allergic, and the principal, fearing that it will spread to the students, appoints Elizabeth to be in charge of the students instead. Elizabeth makes the most of the opportunity and becomes close to Scott. They even have secret dry hump elsewhere that night. A jealous Amy begins to look for a reason to expel Elizabeth from school. She went to her class and tried to look through her desk, but the drawers were locked. She then switched Elizabeth's desk. Amy accuses Elizabeth of cheating on a test. This time, the principal believed her, but also said that unless Carl admitted to the incident, he would have no choice but to fire Elizabeth. So that same day, Amy approached Carl in his office and asked him to confess everything and warned him that if he didn't, she would expose all his wrongdoings in public. Elizabeth gets along well with the students as she travels with them. She even helps a bullied boy become popular by providing him with underwear. When Russell sees this, he is impressed with her. Their romantic conversation is rudely interrupted when Amy arrives on the scene and taunts Elizabeth that she will soon be arrested. When Carl receives the package and opens it, he finds several nude photos of him, apparently taken by Elizabeth while he was unconscious. Now she asks him to make a false confession, and in return she will keep his photos a secret. This puts Carl in a difficult position, as both ladies are blackmailing him with their demands. Elizabeth then comes forward on her own, claiming that someone at the school is using anesthetics in the classroom. As a result of Elizabeth's claims, several police officers storm the school and begin searching all the desks. When it was Amy's turn, the narcotics were discovered and she was immediately taken into custody. This finally ends the war between the girls. Elizabeth arrives at the dugout to find Russell, and Elizabeth knows her heart. But surprisingly, she rejects him, and Elizabeth says she already has a smart, fit, and handsome man in her life. Elizabeth also canceled her breast augmentation because she was no longer interested in attracting rich men. The movie ends with Elizabeth promising to be a serious teacher from now on and help her students excel. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like. It really helps the channel. Thank you for watching.